Michael Ayala, new details emerge in the Uvalde, Texas school shooting. More evidence the police response that day was wholly inadequate. Here's a quick timeline from that day. Police officers with rifles stood and waited in a school hallway for nearly an hour while the gunman carried out the May 24th attack that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Just after 11 a.m. on the day of the shooting, the gunman entered the building. Now, we have learned that after only 3 minutes, law enforcement had enough officers on the scene to have stopped the gunman, or at least put a really good effort in. After 8 minutes, they had the tools to break down the classroom door. And after 19 minutes, police had blast shields to protect themselves if they had chosen to enter the building. According to the Texas Public Safety Chief, the chief testified today that the police response was an abject failure, to say the least. Still with me, criminal defense attorney and registered nurse Marie Pereira. Now, Marie, you know what's interesting is this raised some questions among some of my colleagues about, what we expect from our police officers. We know they're not the best paid folks in the world, and, they are supposed to go out and serve and protect. But this is a little bit of a different situation. We have a case with a young guy with an AR-15 automatic rifle or semi-automatic rifle of some sort. We're asking them to go in and save these kids. Do you have any issue with their choices that day?
Cowards shouldn't be cops. And that's that.
Yeah.
If you're a coward and you know that you don't want to put your life in danger to protect others, then this is not the line of work for you, period. They were cowards, and that cost all those poor innocent children and the 2 teachers their lives. They're cowards. Cowards should not be cops.
Yeah, there's all these logistical things that the chief is trying to bring out about radios and about who was in charge. Oftentimes, when you have these situations, you have to follow orders, you have to do things the right way. I'm not so sure this is about those cops because they were not getting orders from leadership to go on in. So do you separate those two? Arredondo, we're seeing him right there. He's the guy, he said basically, I was at the scene, but I thought someone else had taken over control of the situation. You know what? Well, I'm gonna let you talk about it, but that doesn't fly with me at all.
It sounds like to me, Keystone cops were cowards. They had poor management, but at the end of the day, really, when you see a situation like that, and you see that leadership is not coming through and not giving adequate instruction, not coordinating, you don't think that all of these adults in law enforcement could have said enough is enough? We have to go in and rescue these kids. So you know what? To hell with leadership, we're going to do what we have to do and deal with repercussions later. We're talking about lives of innocent children here. I don't think if one of those cops failed to follow orders and it ended up saving lives, that they would be in trouble right now.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I just can't believe that those cops, because I know so many cops, and these folks do. I mean, it's about serving the public, and sitting there during that harrowing hour or so that it took them to go in must have been difficult for them too, Well, at a state Senate hearing, Colonel Steve McCraw, he's the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, he testified that delays in law enforcement response have become the focus of federal, state, and local investigations. Now, McCraw told the Senate committee that Pete Arredondo, the Uvalde School District Police Chief, the guy you see there in the white shirt, decided to put the lives of officers ahead of the lives of children. He revealed that Arredondo didn't have a radio with him to communicate with his fellow officers. Police and sheriff's radios did not work within the school. Only the radios of Border Patrol agents on the scene worked inside the school, and even they did not work perfectly. There were some diagrams of the school that police were using to coordinate their response, and they were wrong. The school doors could not be locked from inside, so the gunman gained access by simply walking through the closest door. All right, Marie, I want to ask you about that door issue. This is a pretty big issue across the country. After the shooting in Sandy Hook, there were recommendations made by a couple of large organizations that doors to schools should be able to be locked from the inside for obvious reasons, but can also be opened from the inside. They don't want them to be locked in for various reasons, safety of teachers being one of them. but certainly the ability to lock them. This was not the case here. I'm wondering your thoughts on that, the idea that school doors should be locked and have the capability to be open from the inside.
Absolutely, because you have to protect the children. And in this day and age, we already know that there are people looking at these schools as soft targets because we have little kids, teachers who are not SWAT team members who don't know how to protect themselves. So yes, they have to protect the children. But with this whole situation, it's not even clear on what was the situation with the door, because they're saying a teacher propped it open. The teacher said, well, I closed it, and then it malfunctioned. No one really knows. There's not really an open door to this investigation because the police and the authorities responsible are not allowing themselves to be interviewed, and they're holding back information, and that's impeding any investigation, which could in turn help to not let this happen again. They're not being forthright about the mistakes that they made, because I anticipate they see lawsuits coming, and that lawsuits will be coming, because these are some wrongful deaths here. It's just terrible.
The civil lawsuits, no question. I'm wondering if maybe there might be some criminal situations here. Again, I'm not inside the head of that Arredondo guy, but I can tell you, first of all, I'm surprised and shocked he still has a job. First and foremost, you got to get rid of him. Do you put more of the blame on management, or do you put it on the cops on the scene as well?
I put the blame on management, but at the end of the day, those cops were not idiots. If they see that management is not acting right, and we're talking about lives, it's okay to say, you know what, my boss doesn't know what he's doing. This is an emergency situation, and I have to act. And that's that, because at the end of the day, who were the last people on site who could have saved these kids? The cops who were hanging around in the hallway saying, hama, 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 what are we doing? Meanwhile, these kids are being slaughtered inside. They should have just done what they had to do, regardless of the failure of their leadership at that moment.
All right, Marie, stand by.